His name was Juan Pujol Garcia, but history would remember him by another name. Garbo, a man who never fired a gun, never led an army, never killed a soldier, yet he crippled the Nazi war machine more than divisions of tanks. He was called the man who saved D-Day, the spy who fooled Hitler, the ghost with 1,000 voices, the double agent of the century. But before he became legend, before he changed the world, before he deceived an empire, he was nothing. A failed businessman, a man without direction, a Spaniard wandering through the ashes of the Spanish Civil War. He was ordinary, and that is what made him invisible. And invisibility makes the perfect spy. The making of a strange genius. Juan Pujol was born in Barcelona in 1912, in a house where political divisions tore families apart. His father believed in democracy. His mother believed in order. His neighbors believed in chaos. The young Juan watched the world fracture. He saw friends become enemies. He saw lies spread like wildfire. He learned one lesson: if everyone lies, the smartest liar wins. He hated extremism, hated cruelty, hated war. But he loved stories. He could invent entire worlds in seconds. He had a strange, rare gift. He could lie with such confidence that even he began to believe the lie. This was the seed of Garbo, the Civil War. A man without a side. When the Spanish Civil War erupted, Juan refused to fight for either side. He did not believe in fascism. He did not believe in communism. He believed both sides were corrupt, so he did something unthinkable. He faked his identity, forged documents, pretended to support one side, then escaped to the other, then escaped again. Each time using lies so perfect that soldiers simply waved him through. He survived the entire war without firing a single bullet. He told his family, "I will never again serve a cause I do not believe in. Next time, I will choose my own war." And World War II was coming. His war, the dream to destroy Nazism when Hitler's armies stormed Europe. Pujol felt disgusted. "I want to fight the Nazis, but I want to do it in a way no one has done before." He had no training, no military background, no connections, but he had imagination, a dangerous imagination. He told his wife, "I will become a spy." She laughed. "For who? Spain? Britain?" "No," he said, "for myself." The rejection. Brighton-Laws Pujol's first move was crazy. He walked into the British embassy in Madrid and declared, "I want to spy for you against Germany." The British officer raised an eyebrow. "Do you have military experience?" "No." "Spy training?" "No." "Political ties?" "Nils." "I am a good liar." The officer nearly threw him out. Britain rejected him 3 times. He was told, "You are not useful. You are unqualified. You are wasting our time." He left humiliated, but not defeated. He told himself, "If Britain does not want me, Germany will." And with this insane idea, the greatest deception in World War II began. Infiltrating the Nazi Empire. A lone Pujol walked into the German embassy with forged documents, a fake passport, a fake military background, a fake business proposal. He told them, "I am loyal to Germany. I want to help you win the war." The Abwehr, German intelligence, believed him instantly. They gave him invisible ink, codes, money, and a mission: spy on Britain from London. There was only one problem. He was not in London. He had never been to London. He did not speak English. He did not even know how British money looked. But he smiled confidently and said, "Of course, I will go immediately." Germany thought they had found a perfect agent. Instead, they had recruited Britain's future greatest weapon. The spy who never went to London. Instead of going to London, Pujol went to Lisbon. From a hotel room, he invented an entire network of fake spies: a Welsh extremist, a British naval officer, a Scottish nationalist, dock workers, civil servants, pilots, businessmen. Dozens of fake agents, all writing fake reports. All created by one man with a pen and too much imagination. He mailed Germany intelligence fabricated from newspapers, maps, and pure lies, and Germany believed every word. Why? Because Pujal's lies were perfectly imperfect. Sometimes he made mistakes. Sometimes the information was late. Sometimes spies argued with each other. It felt real. Soon, Germany trusted him so deeply that they asked him to recruit more agents. He invented 20 more. He became an intelligence network of one man. The turning point? Brighton finally listens. British intelligence began intercepting German messages. They noticed something strange. The Nazis had an agent in London who knew everything: troop movements, shipping schedules, weather reports, morale levels, factory production. But the British knew that no German spy had infiltrated London. So who was feeding Germany this information? The reports were detailed but subtly wrong. Accurate but not dangerous. Realistic but strategically harmless. A British analyst said, "This spy is either a genius or intentionally misleading Germany." They investigated, they discovered the truth, and they were stunned. It was the man who had begged to be a spy, the man they rejected, Juan Pujol Garcia, Garbo. They brought him to London immediately and made him a full double agent. From that moment on, Garbo became the most valuable spy in World War II. And his greatest deception was still to come. London smelled of smoke and fear. German bombs had shattered streets. Families huddled in basements each night. The war felt like a monster breathing over the city. In a quiet building in central London, Juan Pujol Garcia, now officially Agent Garbo, sat at a simple desk with 2 lamps, a typewriter, several radios, and 28 imaginary spies he invented. He was no longer a nobody. He was now the man who would deceive an empire. The birth of the greatest deception network ever built. British intelligence, MI5, could hardly believe their luck. Germany was paying Pujol. Germany was praising him. Germany trusted him more than most of their real agents. And they did not know that every message he sent was filtered by British officers. The British created an entire unit, the Double Cross Committee, whose sole job was managing double agents like Garbo. But Garbo was not like the others. He had endless imagination, no fear, no limit, a desire to destroy Nazism, an instinct for storytelling, a bizarre genius for creating believable lies. He did not just fool Germany, he controlled them. The spies who never existed. Garbo created an intelligence network so vast that even today it sounds impossible. 27 fake sub-agents, dozens of invented informants, hundreds of fake messages, stories of meetings, conflicts, and betrayals, marriages and divorces among imaginary spies, even deaths he reported with emotion. Germany was amazed. They believed they had a Spanish extremist, a Portuguese sea captain, a disgruntled civil servant, a Scottish dock worker, pilots, waiters, factory workers, even a secretary close to Churchill. All of them were Garbo, one man, typing alone. His creativity was so extreme that sometimes the British handlers asked him, "How do you come up with this?" Garbo would smile and say, "War is easier to win with imagination." Germany falls in love. Garbo Berlin showered him with praise. Our most valuable spy, a hero of the Reich. His information is precise and unmatched. They paid him generously. They trusted him completely. They even promoted him. Eventually, they awarded him the Iron Cross, one of Nazi Germany's highest military honors. Only one problem: Garbo was working for Britain. So technically, Hitler awarded a medal to a man helping to destroy the Reich. The irony was incredible. The war takes a turn. Allied forces prepare for a masterpiece. By 1943. Britain and the United States were preparing for the most ambitious operation of the entire war. D-Day, the liberation of Europe. But there was a terrifying problem. If Germany discovered where the Allies would land, the invasion would fail. Tens of thousands of soldiers would die. The war might stretch for years. Hitler believed the Allies would land somewhere, but where? The real landing site was Normandy. But Hitler believed it would be Pas-de-Calais, the closest point to Britain. The Allies needed him to stay convinced of this. They needed a spy who could manipulate the entire German high command. And there was only one man for the job: Garbo. Operation Bodyguard. The Master WWII Garbo's handlers called him into a closed briefing. They told him, the success of D-Day depends on one thing. Hitler must believe the invasion will happen anywhere except Normandy. Garbo nodded. This is my war. I will win it. And so began Operation Bodyguard, the greatest deception campaign in human history. Garbo became its heart, its voice, its mastermind. The lie that saved the world. Garbo fed Germany fake troop movements, fake supply lines, fake military divisions, fake strategies, fake Allied plans, fake landing zones. He even created the first U.S. Army group, FUSAG, a completely imaginary army commanded by General Patton. Garbo convinced Germany that thousands of tanks, hundreds of ships, hundreds of thousands of soldiers were gathering to invade Pas de Calais. The truth was different. Most of the tanks were inflatable. The buildings were wooden frames. The divisions were fictional. But Garbo described them so convincingly that Berlin believed every word. He even told the Germans that he had an agent in the British War Office. That agent did not exist. But Germany did not know that. The night before D-Day, the world holds its breath. June 5, 1944. Storms raged over the English Channel. Allied ships rocked in violent waves. Tens of thousands of soldiers waited in silence. Garbo sat in a small room in London, radio turned on, fingers trembling. He sent a message to Germany: important troop movements detected, weather-delayed action. Be prepared. Germany read the message. They were interested, but not yet alarmed. Garbo had something else planned. D-Day, the Great Deception, begins June 6, 1944. 6:30 in the morning. Allied forces landed on Normandy beaches. The greatest invasion in history had begun. Machine guns screamed. Bombs roared. Men sprinted through hell. In Berlin, phones rang. Officers shouted. Confusion spread. But the strangest thing happened. Hitler refused to send reinforcements. Why? Because Garbo had convinced him that Normandy was a decoy. Garbo sent more messages. The real invasion will come at Pas de Calais. Do not move troops. Germany obeyed. For 7 crucial weeks, Hitler kept his best tank divisions far away from Normandy. This mistake cost Germany the war. The moment Hitler realized the truth, by August 1944, Allied forces had broken through Normandy and were racing across France. Berlin analyzed Garbo's reports again. They noticed something. Every prediction had been perfect. Every detail had felt real. Every spy had provided consistent information. But the invasion never came at Pas de Calais. Hitler glared at the intelligence reports. A chilling thought passed through his mind. Have we been deceived? But it was too late. The Allies were unstoppable. The man who saved millions. Historians estimate that Garbo's deception saved up to 100,000 Allied soldiers in the first weeks of the invasion. He did not fire a bullet. He did not command an army. He used only ink, imaginatio, and an unmatched genius for deception. Because of him, the war's turning point succeeded. Because of him, Europe was freed. Because of him, Hitler made one of the biggest strategic mistakes in military history. And yet, Germany still believed Garbo was their hero. They even sent him a congratulatory message. Your intelligence was instrumental in our defense. We are proud of your service. Garbo nearly laughed. After D-Day, the world changed forever. The Allied armies pushed deeper into France. German forces retreated. The Nazi Empire began collapsing from the inside. And somewhere in London, in a dimly lit room filled with radios, maps, and empty teacups, Agent Garbo sat quietly. The man who fooled Hitler. The man who invented an entire army. The man who saved the invasion that liberated Europe was now a danger to himself. Because was one group the Allies feared, the last fanatics of the SS, men who worshipped Hitler like a god, men who believed betrayal must be punished with death. And Garbo, without question, was the greatest traitor the Nazis had ever known. The death sentence hunting Garbo British intelligence warned him. You cannot stay in Europe. The Germans may have lost the war, but the SS survivors will hunt you. Garbo understood. He had spent years studying the psychology of Nazism. He knew their hatred did not die with their empire. And he knew they believed he was still their loyal spy, their hero, their decorated agent. But when truth reached them, when they learned he was the architect of the greatest deception in history, the entire Nazi underground would want one thing: revenge. Garbo said calmly, "Then I must disappear." The invention of a death with the help of MI5, Garbo created his final masterpiece. One last great lie, a lie so perfect that it fooled the world for almost 40 years. He faked his own death. The official story sent to Germany was simple. Agent Garbo died of malaria in Angola. They prepared documents, a fake medical report, a falsified burial record, a death certificate, and then Garbo vanished. The Nazis believed him dead. His file was closed, his legend sealed, his name faded into silence. For the first time in years, Garbo slept peacefully. A new life, a new name, a new world. Garbo traveled to South America, not as a spy, not as a hero, but as a ghost. He settled in Venezuela, a country of warm rain, jungles, and distance. A perfect place to hide. He adopted a new identity. Juan Garcia sometimes, Ricardo sometimes simply the professor. He lived a simple life, teaching, repairing radios, selling small electronics. Quiet days, quiet nights, no medals, no recognition, no applause. No one knew the truth. That the quiet man fixing radios in a small Venezuelan shop was the same man who once manipulated entire armies. The world forgets, but history never sleeps. For decades, historians wrote books about the double-cross system, about spies who misled the Nazis, about heroes of D-Day. Names surfaced, but Garbo's remained absent. Deleted, buried. Journalists searched. Intelligence agencies whispered. Some believed he died. Others believed he never existed. Garbo had become exactly what he once pretended to be: a ghost. The discovery. A historian refuses the impossible. In 1984, a British historian named Nigel West began researching the double-cross spies. He kept seeing references to a mysterious figure, a man called Agent Garbo, the man the Germans trusted more than anyone, the man the Allies credited in secret documents. But there was no photo, no address, no obituary. Nigel said, "This man cannot simply vanish." He traveled across Europe, interviewed retired MI5 officers, studied declassified files. Finally, he found one clue. A note scribbled in a margin. Garbo, believed dead in Angola, not confirmed. Nigel did not believe it, and dug deeper. Until he found a shocking lead, a rumor that a Spanish man matching Garbo's description lived in Venezuela decades ago. Nigel booked a flight. The meeting, the spy returns to life. Nigel arrived in Caracas. He followed a chain of old addresses. He met neighbors who barely remembered a quiet foreigner. Finally, in a small town outside the capital, he found him, a thin old man, white hair, tired eyes, repairing a radio with steady hands. Nigel approached him. "Are you Juan Pujol Garcia?" The man froze, looked up slowly, and whispered, "No one has called me that in 40 years. Nigel said, "I have been searching for you. The world needs to hear your story." Garbo smiled softly. "After all these years, the truth has come for me." The return of a legend. Garbo traveled back to Europe for the first time since the war. He walked the beaches of Normandy, stared at the waves, and whispered, "I helped save this place." Veterans shook his hand. Historians embraced him. Some cried. Because here stood the man, the single man, whose lies saved tens of thousands of lives. A man the world thought dead. A man who asked for no reward. A man who defeated Hitler without a gun. The final years. A quiet sunset Garbo spent his last years peacefully, dividing his time between Spain and Venezuela, giving interviews, telling his story, not with pride, but with humility. He always said, "I was only one small piece in a great struggle." But historians knew the truth. He was more than a piece. He was the turning point, the whisper that changed the course of war. In 1988, he died quietly, without pain, without fear. Buried not as a spy, not as a soldier, but as a man who chose the right side of history. Epilogue. The man who won a war with words. Garbo's story teaches one lesson above all. Courage has many forms. Some hold rifles, some fly planes, some storm beaches, but some, like Garbo, fight with ink, with imagination, with the ability to deceive itself. He defeated Nazism not by strength, but by genius, by daring to lie to the most dangerous regime in history. He saved lives not through violence, but through deception. He proved that in war, truth matters, but sometimes a perfect lie can save the world. When Agent Garbo resurfaced after decades of silence, the world quickly realized something astonishing. He was not just a spy. He was a man who had done the impossible. He had been honored by both sides of the most devastating war in human history. By Nazi Germany and by the United Kingdom. One side believed he was their greatest asset. The other knew he was their most brilliant deceiver. And in the strange poetry of history, Garbo became the only man ever to receive a medal from Hitler's Germany and a medal from King George VI of Britain. A man loved by those he betrayed and honored by those he saved. The Nazi medal, the Iron Cross that should never have existed back in 1944. As Germany prepared for the Allied invasion, Garbo sent his constant stream of fake reports. Maps, numbers, fake troop identities. Endless lies that the German high command swallowed whole. Berlin grew convinced that Garbo was courageous, loyal, and essential to German victory. Admiral Canaris, head of German intelligence, praised Garbo personally, saying, "This agent serves the Reich with exceptional dedication." But the ultimate recognition came from Hitler's inner circle. Germany awarded Garbo the Iron Cross Second Class, one of the highest military decorations of the Nazi regime. The medal was shipped to Garbo's supposed London network by diplomatic channels and was delivered to him through German contacts. Imagine the irony. The man who sabotaged Germany's most important military operation, who fed Hitler an avalanche of lies, who crippled the Nazi defense of France, received a medal, excellent service to the Reich. History rarely provides such contradictions. And Garbo enjoyed the irony in silence. The British medal. The king honors his greatest coast while Germany unknowingly decorated their own betrayer. Britain watched Garbo with admiration. He had become the most valuable double agent in the war. His lies saved lives. His reports misled entire armies. His network of invented spies fooled the German high command. So in 1944, King George awarded Garbo the Member of the Order of the British Empire, the MBE, a high civilian honor reserved for exceptional service to the nation. The ceremony was quiet. No cameras, no journalists, no celebrations. Garbo walked into a small room, received his medal, shook hands with a handful of officers, and walked back out into anonymity. His work was classified. His identity was hidden. His accomplishments locked behind government files. The world had no idea that the quiet Spaniard who left through the back door had just been recognized as one of the key architects of D-Day success. The impossible duality. Hero and traitor at the same time. Think about it. In Berlin, he was a hero. In London, he was a hero. But for completely opposite reasons. Germany admired him for the lies they thought were truth. Britain admired him for the lies they knew were lies. The same reports, the same messages, the same invented stories brought him honor from both sides. He had become a myth, a contradiction, a paradox wrapped in radio waves and ink. Garbo was proof that intelligence can twist reality, and that the sharpest weapon in war is not a tank, nor a bomb, but a mind capable of shaping belief. Post-war revelations, why Garbo had to remain a secret after the war, Allied intelligence could not simply reveal him. Not yet. Several reasons forced them into silence. Garbo had betrayed the Nazi high command completely. If remnants of the SS discovered his role, he would be hunted. His network of fake spies needed to remain believable. Some might serve in future deception operations. The Cold War was beginning, and intelligence services were eager to study Garbo's techniques, so they hid him, protected him, covered his tracks, buried him behind layers of classification. Officially, Garbo did not exist. The CIA and MI6 analyze his methods. The art of perfect lies long after the war. American and British intelligence agencies studied Garbo's reports, trying to understand how one man created the most successful deception network ever recorded. He used psychological methods decades ahead of their time, constant small truths mixed with small lies, flaws in reports to seem human, emotional stories to build trust, entire invented personalities with biographies and weaknesses, delays that seemed natural, arguments between imaginary agents. He made fiction look real and made reality look like fiction. My 6 analysts, Garbo possesses an intuitive grasp of psychological warfare unmatched by any operative. Even the CIA used his example in training manuals, studying the art of structured deception and the manipulation of enemy intelligence. He was a mastermind, an artist of illusion, a king of believable lies, a quiet legend. The world begins to learn his name when Nigel West rediscovered Garbo in the 1980s. The world reacted with astonishment. Documentaries were filmed. Newspapers ran headlines. The spy who saved D-Day found alive. Garbo traveled to the United Kingdom, met old intelligence officers, visited the beaches where many men lived because of him. Soldiers embraced him, cried in his presence. Garbo would always answer softly, "I did what was necessary, nothing more." Humility wrapped around genius. A return to Normandy. The final tribute, one of the most touching moments in his final years, was visit to Normandy. He walked the quiet shores, waves rolling gently against the sand, the same beaches where thousands died and thousands survived thanks to his lies. He stared at the horizon, silent, motionless. A veteran approached him, shook his hand, and said, "If not for your work, I would not be alive." Garbo's eyes filled with tears, one of the few times in his life he allowed emotion to show. He whispered, I only wanted to stop the killing," a simple phrase, but it carried the weight of history. The 2 medals of a ghost. In his small home near Caracas, Garbo kept 2 medals in a wooden box. The Iron Cross, awarded by Hitler's regime. The MBE, awarded by the King of England. 2 symbols of 2 worlds, 2 sides, 2 destinies, 1 medal earned by lies, 1 medal earned by truth, yet both earned by the same man. The paradox of Garbo's life is this: he was honored by the evil he destroyed and honored by the good he protected. No other man in history did this. No other likely ever will. When Garbo returned briefly to Europe in the 1980s, a world that had forgotten him suddenly awakened. Historians, soldiers, intelligence officers, all stood in awe of the man who had once fooled an empire. But fame never tempted him. He smiled during interviews, answered softly, and walked quietly through crowds. He once said, "I did not fight for glory. I fought because evil must be opposed." After a final series of public appearances, Garbo returned to Venezuela, back to the quiet life he had built after the war, back to anonymity, back to shadows. Because deep inside, he still believed that silence protects the soul, and the world had already asked enough from him. The final retreat. A life lived in whispers in Caracas. He lived simply, drank black coffee on his balcony, fed stray cats, walked to the market each morning, and repaired radios in his small workshop. No one around him knew he was Garbo, the master spy, the man who shaped the destiny of nations. Neighbors knew him as Senor Garcia, the polite old man who never raised his voice, never boasted, and sometimes stared at the horizon as if remembering another life. He avoided attention, kept his medals hidden, never spoke of war unless asked. In one interview late in life, he said, "The world remembers the soldiers, but it forgets the deceivers." Perhaps that is best. The fear that never left. Nazis in South America, even in the 1980s, South America still held pockets of Nazi fugitives, men who had escaped justice, men who had served in Hitler's armies, men who still believed in the Reich. Garbo knew this. He knew that if word of his presence spread too far, old enemies might search for him. He had betrayed the Nazi regime more deeply than any spy. He had fed them lies for years. He had manipulated their war plans. He had caused the failure of their greatest defense. There were still Nazis who wanted revenge, and some lived in the same continent he called home. So Garbo remained discreet, protected by silence, protected by his false death. A ghost cannot be hunted. And Garbo remained a ghost. The mystery of his death. Taboo stories. One legend, the end of Garbo's life is covered in fog, not by accident, but by design. Officially, he died in Caracas in 1988 of natural causes, buried quietly, attended only by close family. But some believe something else happened. A journalist once asked him, "Are you still afraid?" He smiled. "There are still those who would harm me if they could." Some intelligence officers whispered that Garbo requested relocation, that he did not feel safe in Venezuela, that old Nazi associates had learned he was alive. Rumors say he was quietly moved to Brazil. Others suggest he returned to Spain under a hidden identity. But no proof ever surfaced, no records, no clear documentation. Garbo had faked his death once. He could have done it again. The world accepted the official story. But many believe Garbo chose to disappear again. A ghost does not die. It simply fades. The legacy. How unmatched warfare forever. Garbo's influence reshaped the world of intelligence. His methods became foundational to modern espionage. Intelligence schools studied him. His fabricated networks were used as case studies. Psychological warfare divisions analyzed his patterns. His teachings can be summarized in a few principles. Trust is the battlefield. Whoever controls belief controls the war. Lies must breathe. Deception must feel human, imperfect, flawed, real. A single mind can defeat 1,000,000 soldiers, because warfare is not only bullets. It is perception, hope, fear, and anticipation. Garbo proved that the strongest weapon in war is the manipulation of enemy expectations. He saved tens of thousands of lives, not by killing, but by imagining. A rare kind of hero, a man who fought war by avoiding death instead of causing it. The recognition that finally came. A hero of humanity, when his story spread, he was honored in many countries. Soldiers from the United States, Britain, and France thanked him. Museums in Europe created exhibits about him. His voice was preserved in documentaries. His name etched into halls of intelligence agencies. He received standing ovations, letters from veterans, tears from families. One D-Day survivor said, "You saved my life. You saved all our lives." Garbo replied gently, "I only told stories." But they were not ordinary stories. They were stories that reshaped the world, stories that rewrote the fate of nations, stories that deceived evil itself. The final truth, why Garbo matters in a century full of war, violence, and destruction. Garbo stands out for one reason. He fought without hate. He lied to save. He deceived to protect. He manipulated to preserve life. He was a hero not because he killed, but because he refused to. He believed that intelligence, creativity, and courage could do what bullets could not. And history proved him right. Garbo is a reminder that a single person, armed with nothing but imagination, can change the world, can protect nations, can defeat tyrants, can write a new chapter in human history.